Well, if you're anything like me, you just finished watching every bit of the Medvedev-Felix Auger Aliassime match. I woke up towards the end of the fourth set. I saw Medvedev save a match point, which, how about Medvedev? The fastest serve of the entire match. I'm trying to remember. I think it was 213 kilometers an hour. His fastest serve of the match, out wide, the flat bomb out wide. One of my favorite serves to go for as a righty in the ad court. Medvedev goes and bangs that down on match point, breaks right away, and then serves that thing out for 7-5. We go to an exciting fifth set. Look at the total points won here in the stats. 182 apiece. Big-time GOAT-level matchups are back, baby. If you were worried about the future of the sport, this was a great sign. A little upsetting. There was some cheering when Medvedev double faulted at one point. Medvedev not happy with the crowd being against him, but, we got someone to replace the role of Novak Djokovic looking forward. I'm not saying Djokovic is done. I hope Djokovic is back very soon on the scene and allowed to play in tournaments, of course. But yeah, moving on, we're going to have someone who takes that role of Djokovic, who doesn't mind being the bad guy and will use that energy against the opponent when the crowd is against him in Medvedev. We've seen it before, and we saw some more of that. Again, we saw it earlier in the tournament against Nick Kyrgios. Good to point out that it was very valuable for Medvedev to have that match with Nick Kyrgios and deal with such an atmosphere because he had a similar one again with Felix Auger today. Anyways, out-aced, more double faults, less winners, but far less unforced errors from Medvedev. It was a great match from start to finish. And Medvedev, you might not have thought he'd be able to come back 2 sets down like this, especially in these kind of conditions. In the past, Medvedev, it's felt like he's a little frail. But maybe another comparison to Djokovic. Djokovic was the guy that everyone said couldn't hang. He's going to call the trainer. He's got these match, retirements, mid-match retirements. In the Grand Slams, he's not built for best of 5. And what did Djokovic do? Of course, he became the ultimate gladiator, the ultimate marathon man. Maybe Medvedev is going to copy him that as well. Some booing, pretty disgraceful, pathetic from the crowd to boo just the mention of Djokovic's name, because they said, what were you thinking, Medvedev, when you were down 2-0? And Danny Medvedev said, I was thinking, what would Djokovic do? What would Nole do? Which I thought was great. And I loved hearing that. It's awesome to see these guys inspired by the big three and go on to do big things. So shame on the Aussie Open crowd, even if it was only like half of them, to boo Djokovic because Medvedev said he was inspired to WWDD. What would Djokovic do? Hit the music. Welcome to the Coffee Break Tennis Podcast, brought to you by the Patron Saints. I am slammed today with a bunch of stuff I've got to run around and do, but thank God. God bless the Patron Saints. God bless the Patron Saints. God bless the Patron Saints, because without them, I wouldn't be doing a show today. Anyways, so let's dive right in since we're in a rush. Let's look at some numbers. In the first set, we saw Felix Auger all day was out hitting Medvedev from the forehand pretty big. He was banging it big. The backhand, a little bit behind Medvedev, but, pretty close. Felix, we've been waiting for a long time. I forget how young he is. It's easy to write these guys off and say, oh, Felix, he's a choker. When the pressure comes, he doesn't perform. Well, he's young enough to where he could turn it around. And today, I know he had a good U.S. Open, but today, man, the way he played against Medvedev, even though he lost, and I was happy to see what he had to say afterwards. Basically, Felix was saying that he thinks he can hang. He can't wait to be back in this situation again with a top player. 5 sets at a Grand Slam, second week, quarterfinal stages and beyond. And he thinks he's going to be able to win some of these matches. He said he's leaving here with his head held high. So good attitude from him. I don't think he's going to be crushed by this result. I think he's going to be more and more of a factor. I told you earlier in the week when he looked like his usual self, getting nervous and choky against Dan Evans in the first set, and then he flipped the switch and just chewed Dirty Dan up and spit him out. Anyway, so early on, out-hitting Medvedev from the forehand, just came out guns blazing, outplaying him in every department pretty much, especially the one you would never expect, up 7-6, 4-2. Look at the returns made. Felix Auger is pretty far ahead here. 84% returns made, whereas Medvedev was only getting 76 of the Felix serves back. And part of that is, take a look at set number 2. Felix, he can be a little predictable on that second serve. He doesn't really kick it. Medvedev also said he was having a hard time hitting his kick serve, which was hurting him a lot on the second serve numbers because of the fact they didn't close the roof until after mid fourth set, somewhere around the late fourth set. Anyways, or was it third set? I can't remember, but anyway, yeah, it must have been third set that they closed the roof. Anyways, they didn't close the roof till later, but good thing that they did because Medvedev said he was sweating so much that, and he's right, it's hard to hit a kick serve because you really got to get a lot of wrist action to hit a good kick serve, and you still got to swing really hard. And it's hard not to feel like it's going to fly out of your hand when you're sweating as much as it was. Because, it was hot, but then as the rain was coming, you'd think, oh, that's a relief. But really, when you're in hot weather and then some rain is coming, it's not heavy rain yet. It gets so humid that the sweat level just multiplies exponential growth. Anyways, 83% first serve in from Felix here. And that was a big part of why Medvedev was getting less returns back. And look at Medvedev, 55%. So that's part of the story there. Of course, Medvedev would go on to step it up. Going forwards, Tsitsipas, just take a look at this. This is one. I think I'm in a hurry, so I'm not going to say too much more about Medvedev Felix, except I was blown away. It was an incredible match. It makes me have faith in the future of the sport. We've got a lot of interesting personalities now, and Felix is, obviously just the smile, the face. He's a likable guy. The crowd was behind him right away. So we're going to have some characters, Chapeau too. If these guys are going to be performing and doing well and they're going to be deep in the slams, people are going to always be excited to tune in, especially to the second week of Grand Slam tennis. And that's what the sport really needs, a lot of excitement in that match. Take a look at this. Sinner really let me down. I couldn't call it. I'm glad I didn't. The match predictor they showed at the beginning showed Sinner as a slight favorite. I've heard betting odds were a slight favorite for Sinner to win. McEnroe was saying Sinner was the favorite here, along with Chris Fowler, and saying it was time for Tsitsipas to step up. Well, guess what? He did. This one stat here says it all for me. 35% of the time taking that ball inside of the baseline. And look at Sinner getting pushed back a lot more. Typically Sinner is really hugging that baseline and moving side to side, not letting anything push him back. And Tsitsipas just came out on fire. And what it made me think of was the Carlos Alcaraz match where Tsitsipas lost in 5 sets at the U.S. Open last year. I think Tsitsipas learned his lesson with these young guns who play very aggressive. Carlos Alcaraz even more aggressive than Sinner, but Sinner, very aggressive baseliner. And Tsitsipas said, I'm going to come out. It's the Mike Tyson thing. You have a game plan until you get punched in the mouth. Tsitsipas came out and punched Sinner in the mouth over and over and over with the serve, with the forehand. And even when Sinner started finding, he kept trying to find that backhand whenever he had a backhand himself going cross court. Sinner's got one of the best backhands on tour. And Tsitsipas was just hanging in that corner, taking the ball super early and hitting these inside-out forehands over and over. Sinner could not. You look at the red dots. You see it. Oh, well, this is forehand hit points, so that makes sense. I was going to say, but you can tell, those marks, even in the 54% area on the left side behind the baseline, those aren't backhands. Those are Tsitsipas getting around a backhand and taking a forehand a little bit past the baseline. So, yeah, if we had the full spread here of backhands included, you would see some of those too. But my point is there wouldn't be too many of them because Sinner wasn't finding it too much. And when he did, I remember at one point, Tsitsipas just lit up a backhand up the line winner so hard, so forcefully. If Tsitsipas plays like that, he's going to have a chance against Medvedev. I'm interested to see how Medvedev recovers from that match. Very draining, lost a lot of fluid. But you know what Medvedev always says, I'm going to take a painkiller and go out and play the match. Also, he said this. Take a look how he signed the camera. Not tired. I love Medvedev's mental approach to the game. I love when he gets angry. Sometimes he goes overboard and it hurts him. But lately, that hasn't been happening so much. Just to wrap up Tsitsipas and Sinner. Yeah, Tsitsipas, just so aggressive that Sinner. They keep showing this Carnival Cruise commercial where it's like, have you ever been thunderstruck? It's really stupid. Fun, like having fun, thunderstruck. And obviously it's a play on words on Thunderstruck, which is an Australian song, ironically. Anyways, so screw Carnival Cruise and that stupid commercial. But Tsitsipas thunderstruck Jannik Sinner today. And I'm not too worried about Sinner. He's going to learn from this one. Tsitsipas learned from Carlos Alcaraz, I think, who came out and punched him in the face. And so Tsitsipas says, I'm going to hit center hard and early so that he has no chance. I mean, Tsitsipas played perfect. Sinner, like, he started getting it going. And in some ways, it's a bad matchup in that Sinner's biggest weakness, he's a great returner of serve, but Tsitsipas was having a great serving day. He was serving very aggressive, and he was hitting the spots very well. It was hard to predict where he was going to go. It was Federer-esque serving from Tsitsipas. And Sinner, the worst thing about his game right now, and he's getting better, he's developing the pace on the serve. I'm not going to show you the stats, but I'll tell you one thing. Tsitsipas was about 9 miles an hour on average faster on both first and second serve. So let's round it up to double digits. Tsitsipas bringing a lot more heat on first and second serve. Alcaraz beat up Tsitsipas' second serve a little bit. So he came out very aggressive on both today. And the way he defended serve, the way he set up the serve, it wasn't like Tsitsipas hit a bunch of aces or anything. He didn't. It was Rafa-esque. Maybe go away from Federer-esque there because Federer would have hit some more aces. But Tsitsipas' serve was really setting him up for the forehand a la Rafa Nadal style. Speaking of Rafa Nadal, let's go into some comments because a lot of these comments really hit my biggest things I wanted to talk about today. Manny Zooster, the big rooster, says, if Rafa wins and gets to 21 first, as in the first of the big three to break through the 2020 tie, 2020 that is, second career Grand Slam, GOAT debate will be restarted. But this is an asterisk slam, and I have been thinking about this and waiting to talk about this for a little while now. I wanted to see Rafa get close before I did, and he's pretty close, although Berrettini is going to be tougher than I've been giving him credit for. I was pleased to hear McEnroe said he didn't think Berrettini would be a Grand Slam winner ever, but Berrettini is starting to make a believer out of John McEnroe. Well, he's doing the same thing to me. Berrettini's had a very respectable run. Monfils threw everything at him, and Berrettini still prevailed. If Rafa wins, debate's restarted. This is an asterisk slam. Rafa's my favorite player ever, but even I have to admit he had little chance at the Australian Open with Djokovic on his half of the draw. Regardless, a very entertaining AO 2022. I know some people are boycotting the Australian Open because of what happened to Djokovic. I understand. I say still watch it because it has been a very entertaining Australian Open. And Medvedev could have beat Djokovic this year at his home court. He did it at the U.S. Open. It was going to be even harder here. Medvedev looks so determined. It all started when Kyrgios in the handshake, or not the handshake, but the coin toss at the beginning. He was joking around with the kid that did the coin toss and joking around with Medvedev, and Medvedev would not even crack a smile. They turn and do the picture. Medvedev put on the smile for the picture because you kind of have to, and then it was gone right away. Medvedev is all business, and that's why if Medvedev wins, I don't think it's an asterisk. We'll always wonder, would Djokovic have got his revenge here? And he very well may have, but arguably Medvedev would have had a great chance. It would have been a very close match, and it's sad that we get robbed of it. But if Rafa somehow wins, and you'll have to give him a lot of credit, but there is a slight asterisk. Yes, he beat a guy who just beat Djokovic and stopped the Grand Slam from happening. If Rafa beats Medvedev in the final, which Tsitsipas might have something to say about that, I don't know now. The way Tsitsipas came out, I'm a believer in him too. These are going to be great semifinals. You got to see them both. The first one up in the daytime, I think 2:30 p.m. local time, is going to be better conditions. I think it's going to be hot. Hopefully it's not going to be another humid day. That'll hurt Rafa. But we're going to see Rafa run the backhand breakdown on Berrettini, of course. Oh, and I got a comment that actually dives into that matchup a little, so we'll do that in a second. But I just wanted to address that one. If Medvedev wins, it's not so much an asterisk. There's going to be a slight asterisk here because it was Djokovic's chance to defend and get back on the horse, winning all the Grand Slams almost yesterday. But Medvedev could have beat Djokovic here, so if he does it, I don't feel as bad. If Rafa does it, it's tough, especially considering that Rafa takes a lead on Djokovic. So it kind of sucks if that happens because it's going to be they hurt the sport of tennis. The Australian Open, the Australian government in particular, they hurt tennis, they hurt the GOAT race, they hurt the legacy here, especially if Rafa wins. If Medvedev wins, we can say, okay, there's still a three-way tie. Rafa didn't get ahead of Djokovic because he got to win his Australian Open while Djokovic was sent home like a criminal. Medvedev winning, we're still tied. Arguable, Medvedev could have won. All right, let's move on. Sridhar Kandaswamy says, this goes to the matchup. Think about it. In many ways, this Nadal-Shapo match was similar to Novak versus Taylor Fritzy Boy last year, where Novak struggled physically until the fifth set and he found his mojo. And I want to say Fritz was pretty mad. I think that was because they had to kick fans out because they were doing the crazy thing where it's like, COVID COVID goes away after 10 p.m. So, or COVID comes out, the COVID comes out to get you after 10 p.m. So once it starts to get late, we kick all the fans out so that the COVID won't get them, but they're perfectly safe in here before 10 p.m. Yeah, idiotic, as usual, the Australian government. Anyway, so they did that. Maybe Fritz was upset about that long delay, and it threw his momentum, I want to say. And Shapo very upset, obviously. I wanted to read that. I got what basically Rafa Nadal says, there is no advantage for I'll do it next time. I'll get into it. I don't have time today, but Nadal said that Shapo's full of it, basically. But yeah, Shapo very upset. Nadal got too much of a break before the fifth set, and Nadal took advantage of it. I saw a comment that said Shapo was winning, and then he reverted to his old whiny self, and he kind of did. Although he did have a point early on saying, I'm serving. Rafa's going over time on the clock, and I'm the server. I set the pace. So he sounded whiny in his voice the way he went about it, but he had a strong case early on, Shapo. With the bathroom break and the medical timeout being mixed together, look, Rafa can do that. That's not against the rules. This is what champions do. Totally not surprised. 2 days rest for Rafa is a godsend. He cannot afford to go 5 sets in the semis again, though. That right on. He might, though. And I think that'll make it almost impossible for him to come through Tsitsipas or Medvedev, whoever's going to be in the final. I'm still going with Medvedev, but Tsitsipas, a rematch with the bullshit Russian. I can't wait for it. I think I'm more excited about that than Berrettini. But here's Madhukaran Adivili says it will be 5 sets most likely, and I'm agreeing. That's very possible. I hope Rafa jumps all over him and takes him out fast, though. Mateo's slices are so close to the ground, and Rafa likes bounce. Mateo's forehand acceleration is super fast like Roger. He will treble Rafa even more than Shapo. Well, his serve definitely will, and his forehand acceleration, it is super fast like Roger. I've noticed that watching Berrettini this tournament, where so frequently you see Berrettini, I'm thinking of that World Tour Finals where Roger hit a forehand behind him past Djokovic for a winner. And he got so much acceleration on a ball that was literally behind his hip. He did that thing where he plants on his right foot and rotates the hip through the ball and throws the left side of the body backwards, falling away. Berrettini does remind me of Federer in that regard, how in the most uncomfortable positions, he can still manage to accelerate the racket head through a forehand. Just incredible speed. The backhand, though, is going to be an issue. And I wanted to point this one out because, yeah, Berrettini's got a great slice, and that's really good on grass. But remember how Roger beat Nadal in 2017 here at the Australian Open in the final. Roger was not slicing that backhand very much, not blocking on the return as much either. He was going harder and taking it very early on the backhand. So, it's not a great thing to slice here because the slice, no matter how well you hit it or how low it is, it slows the ball down versus ripping it. When you put the slice, it's just, there's no way around it. If you slice a ball, you're spinning it more backwards and it's going to be slower through the air and off the bounce maybe. Depending on how you cut it, you can bounce kind of wicked too. But bottom line is it gives Rafa more time to set up. And let me show you something. Where is it? Bingo. Rafa Nadal, second serve return, hit points versus Mannarino. I told you, when Rafa backs up, especially on second serve return, it hasn't helped him. I saw it in a match earlier. Can't remember who he was playing now, but even against Mannarino, take a look at that. Rafa taking that shot, he makes it a forehand pretty frequently too. Taking it closer to the baseline, he wins 70% versus 20. Holy shnikes. So when you slice the ball at him, it gives Rafa a lot more time to set up and take that ball earlier. Not going to be a winning strategy, I don't think. Good to mix it in for the variety, sure. Great if you can, how Federer will slice it right down the line, which will go to Rafa's backhand, being a lefty. But the point is, you do it and you get them to hit it really low because, Roger will do it when you're in that cross-court pattern, so you got to run all the way over there. And by the time you get it, it's so low that it actually is tough to do anything with it. I don't know if we're going to see Berrettini doing that, though. It's a pretty tough shot. I will point out it is a shot, however, many of these guys might not be great at, but I'm pretty good at it myself. One more thing I want to point out here. Take a look at this. Uncle Tony reveals 20-time major winner came close to pulling out of the Australian Open. He says that only 3 days before Rafa left, he called him. I guess Uncle Tony has a son who's a pretty good tennis player and asked if his son would come out and hit with Rafa just to kind of see how Rafa felt. And he said, he wasn't sure if he was going to go only 3 days away. And then the next day he said, I feel good enough. I'm going. So worth pointing out that if Rafa does win this, he almost didn't go. SH, here's another good one. Rafa's draw was the toughest when it all started, but he has had the easiest route to the semifinal. Rafa lost 2 sets to Shapo because he wasn't at 100%. If he does feel healthy on Friday, he'll have an easy semifinal. If Medvedev makes it to the final, he'll be too tired to face Rafa. Rafa has a real chance at this thing right now. Let's go, Rafa. Yeah, I love, hit the music because I got to get out of here already, believe it or not. Sorry. But I love when people say like, oh, the draw is so easy. You know, you play the guys who won who are playing the best. And frequently, you know, when you say Rafa's draws are too easy at the U.S. Open, you know, he can't control that. And yeah, it has happened, but it's not his fault when the higher ranked players lose. And take a look at this one. He gets a really tough draw. And what happens? All those guys that were so scary, they all lose. They all lose early. And then you have someone like a Manarino push Rafa like, better than Zverev probably would have in that first set. You never know what's going to happen in tennis. So you can never fault these guys for the draw. You know, one of the dumbest things out there is when people say the draws are rigged. Anyways, thank you for joining us. We'll be back after the semifinals to wrap it all up. Maybe I'll put a video out tomorrow because I definitely have more to say. I'm kind of rushed today, unfortunately. But if not, we'll definitely be back after the semifinals. And, of course, we will do something special after the final. It's been a great tournament, even with Djokovic out. It is a slight asterisk and always will be. But like I said, if you love tennis, I don't get it. I don't get it. Just because the Australian government ruined it, it doesn't mean we got to miss this tournament. It's been a good tournament, and fingers crossed that that Medvedev wins it, because he's the only one that I really believe would have beat Djokovic here. And that's the only way I think we get out of this without too much damage, especially Rafa taking the lead at the Australian Open. It's too much. It'd be just imagine the other way around. If Rafa gets kicked out of the Roland Garros and then Djokovic wins it to take the GOAT record away, it would make Rafa fans pretty bitter. So you understand it the other way. Of course, if Rafa wins it, it will be pretty incredible, even with Djokovic not there, because he's had to go through a lot already. And going through Berrettini the way he's playing and a Medvedev in the final is still quite an accomplishment. All right, we'll be back after the semifinals. See you!